What's going on, guys? Another episode of Nicked Up Weekend. Co-host here, Nick Macon. So a lot's happened since the last episode. A lot of kind of somewhat surprising, somewhat not surprising stuff happened. One of them being Paul George finally settled. Jimmy Butler has settled. Chris Paul is no longer in LA. A lot of players are.
It's the NBA free agency show.
Yeah, basically, we're gonna summarize everything. We are gonna be done with the NBA after today,
Pretty much.
unless something stupid happens in the month of August in the NBA, which really never happens. But
or Carmelo finally gets traded, maybe.
We'll see. that is the only person who I think hasn't. I mean, even Jonathan Simmons finally settled. So, the main thing we'll kind of start off with is the big names. You got Hayward, Paul George, and Jimmy Butler. So the main thing we'll just start out with is Jimmy Butler joined the Timberwolves. Won't stick too long on the Timberwolves because I think they're going to be great this next year. They're going to be young, but they're going to be. It's going to be
great. I mean, we've been waiting on. They were. Maybe they can make the playoffs, like how you feel about the 76ers. The first year, first year of Towns Wiggins, it was maybe they can, who knows, they're maybe like the Sixers. There's sleeper pick, didn't do anything. Next year, Tom Thibodeau comes in, and they're not doing anything again. So I'm, at this point, kind of like, I just want to see something before I think they're going to be great. I'm like this guy who wants to be. They're going to be great.
I think they're going to be. I think they're going to probably be the number 4 seed in the West.
No way.
I think it's going to be Warriors. It's going to be Warriors, Rockets, or Spurs, interchangeable, and then it's going to be the Wolves.
Wow. It's going to be a bet. There may or may not be a bet on this at some point.
There probably will. There probably will be, and it'll involve whoever loses it has to do something just completely
figure it out.
Yeah, it'll be stupid. So, with that being said, I'm really high on the Timberwolves.
Takes are strong right now.
Huh?
Takes are strong. You're sticking to brands here.
Hey, I said 3 weeks ago on our show that I thought Andrew Wiggins had the potential to be a superstar. I'm not going to just let that go. So, you laughed at me. But then again, you also did say Allen Iverson was never a superstar. So, I mean... We gotta throw that in there too. I just had to. Sorry, Macon. So let's move on because the Timberwolves only have probably one person in the nation who's a Timberwolves fan who watches this show. Maybe not even that. So, is there actually more Timberwolves fan than one person in the nation? Anyway,
moving on.
Yeah, let's not drop slights on the Timberwolves fans. So Gordon Hayward is now Boston Celtic. We're gonna release. Me and Rudy are releasing a winners losers list sometime. Here on Sunday night. So it will. I have Boston as technically a winner. Technically. Of course, their goal the offseason was to get Paul George and Gordon Hayward because that was probably the only way they were going to beat the Celtics. The only reason I had them as a winner is because they're just
beat the Cavs.
Sorry, yeah, the Cavs. They're going to beat the Cavs. So the Celtics beat the Celtics. The only reason I have them as a winner is because Danny Ainge is kind of just sticking to his process. He believed, I'm sure there were some very, very decent offers for Paul George. There was one where they said they were just going to give up a number 1 and then a future player or something like that, which, I mean, that's not bad. But the thing is Paul George is kind of, I'll get into Paul George now then too.
On the Celtics, I would have them more. I was thinking about them when I was putting in my winners and my winners and losers. By the way, my winners and losers, which we'll discuss more on today, comes from the perspective of, top 3 winners of, if I'm a fan, and I consider a winner, is if I'm a fan of that team, how excited am I about what the team's moves were? It could be a subtle move in the case of a couple winners, or it could just be that there were no moves, and the team is and I'm looking at the team like, if I'm a fan, like, what are we doing? We're not doing anything. What the heck? The Celtics, I didn't put in there because I would have put the Celtics in there, but I really like Avery Bradley for the Celtics.
That was one. I almost put them as I almost put them in my losers category because of that. But then they have a Cleveland Browns amount of draft picks still available.
Right.
So that's why I didn't put them.
And also, I am on this island. We're going to get. Here's a hot take. I'm on the island of I don't believe in Isaiah Thomas as being your best player on the team. I'm not a big Isaiah Thomas. I like Isaiah Thomas the person, his story. It's a great story, but you're approaching 30 and you're 5'6". The track record on point guards who have that stature, they aren't great. Not great. Sure, Isaiah Thomas had a great season, but we saw when Isaiah Thomas was out and the Celtics won the game. The ball movement was a lot better. Isaiah Thomas doesn't have a lot of assists. That Celtics team wants to move the ball a lot, and I think they could get a lot of value for Isaiah Thomas if they trade him. I would be looking to do that. Maybe not. I would test some of that out before I get rid of Avery. I would trade Isaiah Thomas before I would trade Avery Bradley.
I am gonna agree with you. I didn't like the Avery Bradley move at all. I almost put them as losers there because honestly, that was their best defender. Their best wing defender was Avery Bradley. Easily.
I'm sure there are injury issues with him, so I get why they traded him.
But there's injury issues with Isaiah Thomas too.
If not as much of a history, there are injury issues for point guards of Isaiah's stature. Not as much for Isaiah Thomas as there is for Avery Bradley. But bottom line is that if I was a fan of that team, I would, I know a lot of people in Boston, they love Isaiah Thomas. So from that standpoint, it's people in Boston don't want to see Isaiah Thomas go. So there's kind of but as a GM, you shouldn't think with your heart. You shouldn't do that. I think just from a pure basketball sense, to me, it would make more sense if they traded. I'm not saying they should have traded either. Maybe they probably should have traded Jay Crowder, but those are my 2 cents. I'd rather see Isaiah Thomas go.
As far as the money
than
goes,
Avery Bradley.
As far as the money goes, it had to been Jay Crowder and someone else. So honestly, I thought it was gonna be Jay Crowder. I was very surprised when I saw it was Avery Bradley.
And I'd rather see Jay Crowder and someone else than Avery. But again, that's just my thoughts on the Celtics. So.
So
Paul George.
Paul George. So, but this is the reason why I said a lot of good offers, a lot of things were probably I'm sure the Pacers were probably trying to get anything they could, and I think there was one time they were just going to give up a first. They were going to take a first basically for him. So I think the reason why Danny Ainge didn't do that was if Paul George would have had more than 1 year left on his contract, I think Danny Ainge takes that. I think Danny Ainge accepts that offer, and Paul George is on the Celtics with Gordon Hayward.
Something about the whole Paul George stuff seems fishy. Paul George for either Indy thinks really highly of Domantas Sabonis and Victor Oladipo, or maybe Boston just something seems weird there. I don't blame Boston because I think Boston's process of just staying with. I like Boston's process. I've said this. I think I mentioned this on the last podcast. Boston's process of sticking with their picks and waiting for LeBron to leave, which I think is what's happening there. They're just waiting for LeBron to leave, and then they can build a contender for years to come with guys like Jason Tatum, maybe Jaylen Brown, if he becomes really good. Those guys, I think, are going to be. I think they're building something for years to go. And if I'm a fan, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, they're not gonna win the title this year, next year, especially with the Warriors.
Right, because you're not going to, then why get Paul George? And then you're basically handing away a good draft pick, and so.
I understand the moves they made. Boston's going to be around for quite a while. They're going to be around. They're probably going to be the Eastern Conference power here soon because LeBron's going to fall off eventually. I mean, that power, it's going to shift eventually, you would think.
Well,
So-
if he doesn't get into old age, then someone's going to hack him.
Yeah.
Someone's going to hack his cyborg wiring, whatever's going on there.
So, the Thunder. Are
yes.
we going to move on to Thunder?
Yes.
Okay. So, I already kind of mentioned it, the rental thing. So, I have them not even on the list of winners or losers because Oladipo and Sabonis wasn't that big of a deal to give up. Honestly, it wasn't. The reason why Indiana, by the way, you said it, why they liked Oladipo so much is because he played for IU. So
Yes.
so that's the reason why they want, but I've always said it's kind of like if Kevin Durant, his idea of coming to San Antonio last year, there's a lot of UT people here in San Antonio, so they're like, oh man, and and it's the same thing with LaMarcus Aldridge. LaMarcus Aldridge, I don't think it affected his decision to go there, but I think that there's people around who are like, hey, he was a fan of him in college, so he's going to want to buy.
I'm not sure how much I buy into those.
But it's a regional thing. It's Lonzo Ball, UCLA now to LA. I mean,
anyway,
but anyway, that's a whole different topic. But with Paul George going to Oklahoma City, I see it honestly as a rental. It's a rental team this year.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
I think he goes to LA next year.
I think most people see that, but I do believe Oklahoma City is, where whatever you think of the Timberwolves is what I think Oklahoma City will do next year.
It's kind of interchangeable between the two, if you ask me. Paul George is not Kevin Durant.
He's not, no, but
and they don't have Serge Ibaka either now.
No, they don't.
Or at least that version of Serge
Now,
Ibaka.
I think the middle part of the West is going to be weaker than what we think. So, me saying that Oklahoma City could possibly be a 4 seed. I'm not saying that they will. I'm not predicting they're going to be a 4 seed. I mean, that's going to be later on down the road. But I'm saying they have the capability to win 50 games.
Yeah.
And that could be a 4 seed next year in the West.
One team I will.
And I'm not saying
don't sleep on the Clippers.
I say only and good point. I mean, I'm not going to sleep on the Clippers, but I wouldn't project. I'm not going to project. Would I be shocked if the Clippers overtake Oklahoma City? No, I wouldn't be completely shocked. But at the same time, I think the Clippers are. I mean, I think Oklahoma City being a 4 seed and maybe winning at like 50 games. 50 games is not all around for Oklahoma City. But it's just going to be weird to see like that relationship between Paul George and Russell Westbrook. To be fascinating because I don't like Russell Westbrook. I don't like the way other players' body language when they play with Russell Westbrook. It's not good.
And I'll be honest with you, Kevin Durant is not an alpha male.
And also
Paul George is.
I don't know. I think the opposite.
Really?
I think Kevin Durant might be an alpha, but I think Paul. Are we sure Paul George is an amazing player?
I think he was a good player on a bad team.
I think we overrate how good Paul. I think we overrate how good Paul George is. Now he can prove me wrong this year for sure, but I think we overrate how good Paul George is necessarily.
I mean, I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna say right now that
Paul George had about around 22 points a game last year, maybe a little bit more. Victor Oladipo had 18 points a game, 18 points a game. It's not. And my point is that
it's an eye thing. It's an eye test type of thing. Paul George, he plays very stout defensively too. He's a pretty good defender.
So I mean, that was a scouting point.
He's a better 3-point shooter.
Okay.
He's gonna be bigger.
We'll see.
So I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you there. That's why I don't have him on the list at all because honestly, like I said, and they could have made this huge risk, and it could just be for nothing.
Right.
So anyways, let's move on to the last team. So the last team is the Houston Rockets, and I think we're probably, I don't know if we're going to agree or disagree, but I have them on my losers because I think so there's like something my little brother always tells me. It was about the Warriors last year, and he turned out to be wrong. But it's kind of a pretty decent statement. Which there's only one ball. Okay, so James Harden is a pretty ball hogging type of guy. He's gonna have the ball at all times. Chris Paul's the same way. Well, now they play for each other. I also, after we talk about the Rockets, I want to get into the Clippers part of this trade because the Clippers received 7 players for Chris Paul, for a 32-year-old Chris Paul. This may go down as one of the biggest, just completely messed up trades in NBA history here soon. Because I think Chris Paul only has 1 or 2 good years left.
I don't know. I think
maybe that because he's plateaued. He has reached his highest point, and now he's going to begin his way down.
I get this trade for Houston. I get it. I don't think this trade makes them worse.
It doesn't make them worse. No.
I don't consider them losers this offseason because, I mean, they went Golden State. And this is going to sound crazy because this is where we are. Golden State is 2 injuries away from Houston being
2 injuries.
The favorite.
that's a
no.
Granted. Well, I mean, because what's really dumb is the Warriors last year. Everyone said, "Oh man, Kevin Durant's hurt. Oh man, they're gonna struggle." And I said, "That's a 72. That's a 73 win team without Kevin Durant."
Well, and to go back to the Rockets, I think the Rockets, what's going on with Chris Paul and James Harden is going to be more akin to the 2009 Miami Heat and less this incarnation of the Golden State Warriors. And it was Kevin and Steph. And it was like, who's going to have the ball? And they figured it out because whatever. But I think it's going to be more of like, remember when everyone was talking about LeBron and Dwayne Wade? Now, whenever they were struggling a little bit, in air quotes, in 2009.
Struggling.
Yeah. Because remember at first they were.
Oh, yeah. The very first couple months.
That might happen. But there's still some. I mean, if you're a Houston fan, there's still. The playoff doubt has not gone away. Even if you get Carmelo, there's still playoff doubt there in terms of like, oh, okay, we have Harden and Paul, but we've seen both of these guys have bad postseasons. And now the expectations are so high in terms of you have to get to the Western Conference Finals. That's the expectation. Get to the Western Conference Finals and give Golden State your best punch. And now that's going to prove a challenge for guys who have had playoff blemishes like Paul, like Harden.
Or if they get Carmelo.
If they get Carmelo, yeah, exactly. So, but that's, I mean, the Rockets did kind of what everyone wanted them to do. We could look back at this and just be like, this is the downfall of the Houston Rockets. I think it's going to be kind of somewhere in between. I think Daryl Morey's too smart for the Rockets to be extremely terrible, for this to be too bad of an experiment. And if it does all but fail, I think he'll put the pieces back together, and Houston will take a little while to get back.
Houston was absolutely nobody for quite a while, though. You have to remember that.
Right, but I think as long as Daryl Morey's there, they won't be an absolutely terrible team.
I mean, there is only one team in the NBA that is immune from being an absolutely terrible team anytime in the near future, and that's because of the front office. That's because of everything, and that's not because I'm a Spurs homer or anything. That's just the truth. It's like in football, the Patriots are just going to be good until Belichick leaves, until everybody leaves. It's the same thing.
Also, the team that has LeBron.
For now. When because that downfall will happen. He'll be done. I'll tell you the truth. Let's go back to Houston. If Houston gets Carmelo, on paper, they are way. I'm not saying they're just better than the Spurs. They are way better than the Spurs.
Okay, stop.
On paper.
The on paper point. If you were to say, based on talent and skill alone,
yes,
then you're right. But I think that phrase I just don't like that phrase on paper, because on paper, I see the Spurs coaching. I see Greg Popovich on paper.
I'm talking. This is what I'm getting at, though. Okay. This is going to come back on Mike D'Antoni if they don't beat the Spurs.
I mean, talent-wise, that's I don't know.
I had someone the other day ask me why I hate Mike D'Antoni
I mean,
so much.
sure, the Houston Rockets are really good talent wise, but we've seen this all the time in sports where a bunch of teams are good talent wise and still. So I just don't like that.
All right.
But anyway, so I have this list of 3.5 winners and losers according to me, in terms of free agency. And for me, a winner in free agency, I define it a little bit differently. I don't define it as like, oh, well, this team got, Gordon Hayward or Jimmy Butler or whoever we discussed earlier. So they're the winner. But I define it as the 3 winners, and these aren't necessarily the top 3. These are just 3 that I wanted to point out. And these 3 are like, if I'm a fan base and I'm a fan base of this team, like, am I really happy about our prospects moving forward? So that's what I think really matters. That's what matters to me. I'm a Phillies fan in baseball, and gosh, it sucks to try to be a Phillies fan because I just give up on baseball because I don't know what my team's doing moving forward. So I think that a winner is a team that's I see moving forward is doing something special. Loser, I'm looking at the team and I'm like, what's happening to us? Like, what are we doing? So, I'll start with the losers first. Biggest loser is not the New York Knicks. It's the Chicago Bulls.
All right, so the Bulls, like, they maybe have Dwayne Wade. Who knows? I mean, I've heard rumblings that Dwayne Wade might be bought out or something like that. He might be gone.
That's a pretty big buyout, though. There's a lot of money left on his contract.
Dwayne Wade will not be in a Bulls uniform when it's all said and done. Lauri Markkanen has been maybe not a bust, but he hasn't performed that well by all accounts during summer league. And of all the top picks, of all the lottery picks in the draft, that was the most head scratching by most people who follow the draft pretty well.
I mean, they basically got nothing for Jimmy Butler. If you really look at it, they basically got nothing.
Essentially, and you could say that. I mean, if you're a Bulls fan, you feel that way, and that's why they're number 1 on my list.
And the Celtics are going to give up a number 1 for him,
it's
too.
Also, the way I see it is, and I have the Bulls over the Knicks in this list because if you're the Knicks, you're already used to disappointment. You have hit the bottom. You're looking up. If you're the Bulls, you're just now looking at the bottom. If I'm a Bulls fan, I'm finally looking at the bottom, and it looks like Lauri Markkanen and better Lauri Markkanen, a.k.a. Nikola Jokic. No, I'm sorry. No, more on him later. It looks more like Nikola Mirotic. And you got Bobby Portis is one of your highlights. I mean, Bobby Portis is okay at NBA basketball, but, I mean, it's just is Michael Carter-Williams even still playing for the Bulls? I mean, Cam Payne's a point guard because Rondo signed with the Pelicans.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a bad situation. It's a bad time to be a Bulls fan.
Yeah, but don't cry for the Bulls fans.
I will. I have sympathy for others, unlike you.
No, I don't. I mean, here's the thing. I do have sympathy for some teams and some people, but Bulls fans, they are not one of those teams because every single time the Spurs won a title. I know you haven't been a Spurs fan as long as I am, but the first one we won, Bulls fans like to constantly remind us how if Jordan was playing, they would beat us. But then the next one we won, it was you didn't go back to back.
There's always Bulls fans who are like just getting into the NBA.
What I'm saying is in the terms of argument's sake.
Okay.
The Bulls sucking, I'm okay with.
Okay.
So moving on now.
All right. So we have the Bulls. I feel bad for the fans over there. But we have a couple more teams that I kind of lumped together. So these are number 2 and number 3 because they're in an area where they're not making the playoffs. There's not really any hope I don't see for these teams. And yeah, I know we mentioned Avery Bradley, but the Pistons, did the Pistons really get better at all? And they're not even a playoff team in the Eastern Conference. Like, what are the Pistons doing? Andre Drummond's a dinosaur by current NBA standards. The Reggie Jackson Andre Drummond pick and roll just isn't working. And then you have players like Tobias Harris, and I mean they had KCP, who is now in the Lakers, but Avery Bradley's there, and I mean, yeah, Aaron Baines doesn't matter that much for them, but I just don't see what the Pistons are, where they're going.
And that's weird too, because they felt like they were on the rise last year.
They did, and because Andre Drummond is a good young player, but he's a dinosaur now. He can rebound, and he only can do is really rebounds, run some pick and roll, but he can't. He's not a particularly good shooter. He'll get in foul trouble. He's not that disciplined, and he can't, of course, shoot a free throw. He's the worst free throw shooter. When you have DeAndre Jordan, Andre Drummond's the worst.
Yeah.
And then
that is really hard to beat.
And if you take him out, then what are you doing? And so if you're Detroit, I don't see the positives over there, because you're not making the playoffs. Even Charlotte, you can be like, at least, number one, Charlotte. So you already have kind of low sports self-esteem if you're Charlotte. Like, you don't expect to do much if you're Charlotte, but you have Dwight Howard. You've got something interesting. You have Kemba Walker, who's almost an all-star. But if you're Detroit, you're supposed to be Detroit. You're supposed to be
Steve Clifford,
better.
who's I think a pretty good coach.
Yeah, exactly.
I think and
Stan Van should be better. So yeah. Detroit, I lump in, and all the reasons I mentioned for Detroit. I mean, what else can Portland do with what they have? That's also situation seems like it's not going much of anywhere. We talk about the Clippers with Blake, CP3, and running it back with all them. I mean, does Nurkic really make that much of a difference to where you could say, we're going to run it back again with Lillard and McCollum? Two small players in a game where we're starting to realize that wings are the important part. You have to have the wings.
I could see McCollum and Lillard eventually leaving if the Blazers don't get there.
Me too. Me too.
This is what I was. This is. I know you're in the middle of your spiel here. This is what I was talking about. Is players since the NBA has become very top heavy. It's starting to become very top heavy.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these players aren't gonna give their teams that much longer.
Well,
give their teams a chance to even get good.
I kind of disagree. The top heavy is. It's weird you say that, because I believe that the NBA's always been top heavy, but
not this top heavy.
But we're in a weird situation where by top heavy now, it's just, I don't mind. I like the NBA to be top heavy, but I like the top to be defined by more than one or two teams.
Yeah.
Right now, the top is defined by one or two teams. That's a little unusual. And the NBA has always been top heavy, but not one or two team top heavy.
But exactly, it's usually been 4 or 5 teams.
Yeah, exactly.
That you can say we're gonna win that year.
And I think that will correct itself, because guys like Dame Lillard, McCollum, might seek homes elsewhere. But if I'm a Blazers fan, that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm like, we had a good run with when Aldridge was there and Dame and all those guys, and now they're all gone. And if you're a Portland fan, like, are you going to go back to irrelevancy? Like, I mean,
yeah,
those are the three main teams where if I'm a fan, I'm looking at them and I'm like, man, what are we doing? Like, the Knicks, at least they fired Phil. The Knicks fans are at least looking at a team like, well, we're at the bottom. It's going to get better.
Yeah, that's the only way up the only way for the Knicks to go is up. Or just stay as bad as they are.
Right. So Bulls, Pistons, Blazers are the three teams that, to me, they are the teams that stick out the most. Where if I'm a fan, I'm like, man, what are we doing? Where are we going? The half team, and I make it a half because I said 3.5 winners and losers. The half team is me and Nick's beloved Spurs. Now, I say I am coming from a place of overcaution, probably. There is something to be said for, at least we have Kawhi and Pop, and there will be success as long as we have Kawhi and Pop. But the Tony Parker and Rudy Gay and David Lee all have really bizarre injuries that make them maybe not available for the beginning of the season.
Well, David Lee probably won't even be playing for the Spurs.
Okay,
He declined his player option, so
but
I mean,
like,
if he can still resign, but it's still up in the air.
There's situations with the Spurs where it's like I do think the LaMarcus stuff is, as a fan, I think I probably overblew it a little bit. I think we tend to, as fans, overblow where we want to get rid of a guy.
And I agree. I think he'll be back to normal next year.
I think he'll be better. But
if the Spurs hold on to him, I still have a feeling they want to trade him.
But like, what is that? What are the Spurs going to look like? Because especially with the Parker and is it Ginobili? I would assume Ginobili's coming back because they didn't re-sign Simmons. I think those things probably go hand in hand. That's just my guess.
I think Ginobili was going to also, if we would have re-signed Simmons, or the Spurs would re-sign Simmons, Ginobili would have probably taken a pay cut.
And I'm actually really excited for this season as a Spurs fan because I do trust the front office and Popovich and Kawhi so much that I know that what's going to happen is almost certainly going to yield a positive result. But there is still a little bit of doubt for me now. There's been doubt plenty of seasons where, and sure enough, this guy over here assures me that the Spurs are going to be amazing with exuberant amounts of confidence. But
you have to understand, it's the Spurs. The Spurs are This is the reason why I said it's absolutely ludicrous that Pop didn't win the Coach of the Year this year, because he took a team that started Dwayne Dedman at center, started Patty Mills, which Patty Mills isn't a bad player, but a lot of games Patty Mills played a lot of big minutes. Tony Parker declined during the regular season. Mm-hmm. He won 60-plus games with a team that all they had. Oh, and LaMarcus Aldridge missed a pretty decent chunk of the season, too, due to injuries. Mm-hmm. He took a team that all they had was a bunch of rookies and Kawhi Leonard, virtually. And then old guys, Pau Gasol, David Lee, players that are has-beens or at the twilight of their career. He won 60-plus games with them. Are you trying to tell me that the Spurs last year were talent-wise a better team than Houston?
No, I never said that.
Well, I know. I'm not saying you did. Oh, okay. What I'm saying is the voters in general.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
That was. I mean, I do like the Spurs, but I could definitely see why James Harden was voted MVP. The one I objected to the most, I mean, you saying absolute and ludicrous, I think, is a little bit far. But I also agree that Popovich should have won Coach of the Year. I think objectively, I think I can say that.
It's just if you look at the teams,
that was the one gripe I had the most. With
they had
a
better record. They had a better record than the Rockets did. If you even want to go, let's go in the playoffs. We beat them in the playoffs. So I mean, it's. I keep saying we because I'm a Spurs fan. I need to stop saying we when I'm trying to be objective. But objectively speaking, if you just put all of it together, there's no reason why. But that's the problem, though, is the playoffs don't determine that. But moving on to your winners.
Now for the winners. And on a positive note. I have to start with these. The Warriors. I mean, rich get richer. Warriors keep making solid moves for the Warriors by signing another wing that can get buckets off the bench in Nick Young. They did it with JaVale McGee. I mean, that's kind of create the culture where
they virtually have the same team.
You are being labeled as a buffoon. We will help get you revenge. And so
it's not just that. It's honestly, if they had just brought back the same team, that was a win. That was a win.
Well,
they did, and then added Nick Young.
Yeah, and Nick Young isn't the key piece, but it's just the idea that the Warriors did everything. You didn't. There's something to be said for not screwing it up, for just staying the score.
Hold on. You could say they didn't screw it up, but also when you have a player who is willing to not be paid what he is worth, that really helps out a lot.
Right, it does.
Steph Curry went super selfish and wanted the money, and he got the money. Mm-hmm. And Kevin Durant said, I don't care, I just want to win titles. Which is pretty cool, unselfishly, it's all that stuff, but this is something I think that, I don't know if anyone read Rudy's piece he had on his random rant the other day, but But basically, he stated it best, and that was if Kevin Durant was truly unselfish, he would have taken less money to keep Harden around back when they were all on OKC.
Well, I believe that my belief on Kevin Durant is my belief on a lot of people that you don't give leeway to. I believe a lot of these people change their minds. Do I believe it's 100% certain that Paul George is going to Los Angeles? No.
Maybe he
I believe it's a large probability that he's going to Los Angeles next year. But people these ages change their minds, especially Kevin Durant.
Maybe he learned from it. Maybe he learned he should have done that. And he went to Golden State and said, "I'm going to do that now."
Maybe.
Because he did make some money in Oklahoma City. So,
I mean, because it's not really. I'm not huge on loyalty. People change their minds.
Yeah,
it's fine. And I think that's to my point of that Golden State. Eventually, a couple more years, the Golden State dominance will die down. But as for now, I mean, they did what they should, and I think you, Golden State fan, there's no reason to be pessimistic at all of any of the moves.
So they should be fully confident they're going to win the next few
times. So that's one of that's one of my winners. Number 2, surprise, and a team I'm going to be high on next year, just thinking about the pieces, is, you're not going to like me for saying this, but holy beans, Dennis Smith looks really good in Summer League. Dallas, the lineup of Dennis Smith, Seth Curry, sneaky good Seth Curry, Harrison Barnes, Dirk,
if healthy,
and Nerlens Noel. And that Dennis Smith, Nerlens Noel pick and roll might be pretty. I mean, is it unfathomable for Dallas to see Dallas in a weird number 5 seed, and then Wes Matthews off the bench?
Just made it seem like Nerlens Noel is somewhat relevant.
He is. Nerlens Noel's good at basketball.
Anyway, so Jahlil Okafor is, I mean, probably on the same level. It's the thing is, he's not good. I'm not saying Jahlil Okafor is good either.
I think Nerlens. I wouldn't say. Okay, let's put it this way.
The problem is we're arguing about
I like
crap.
the semantics of this part here, and this is key moving forward. I'm not saying that Nerlens Noel isn't good. I'm just saying he's not bad. I think Jahlil Okafor is on the bad side. Do you see where I'm coming from?
So you think Nerlens Noel is mediocre, whereas Jahlil Okafor is just bad?
Correct.
Okay, I can agree with that.
And so, I mean, at worst, mediocre. Especially
he has had some injury problems.
Especially with Rick Carlisle, a Rick Carlisle coach team.
Yeah.
As much as we don't like Dallas,
there's been some injury problems. He's had issues here and there, so I understand that thing.
Also, think about it. If you're a Dallas fan looking at that lineup, you have a lineup now that you can look forward to. You have a core in Nerlens, Barnes. If you're a fan, not you and I, but you're looking at Nerlens, Barnes,
I've seen it too,
and Dennis Smith and Seth Curry.
They're making the moves. Well, but Seth Curry is how would you say? He has slow like Steph Curry went from being Steph Curry went being blah 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 nothing to wow, he's really good. Seth Curry has just made a slow, basically he is slowly getting better. Very slowly. But he can get there.
But he's very much getting he can't get to Steph's level, I don't think, but he can very much turn into a almost borderline all-star. Not a borderline all-star, but really close to it. So that's my point. If you're Dallas, you're looking at the play. You have this team that you can make the playoffs. Especially, Dennis Smith could be a superstar. I would say that he is co-favorite for rookie of the year with the third winner, the Lakers, Lonzo Ball. Yes, I know, but if you're a Lakers fan, how happy are you right now? I know it's pretty much impossible for you to put yourself in the shoes of a Lakers fan, but
I'm excited for Lonzo Ball.
If you're a Lakers fan, and not just Lonzo Ball,
but I am scared like no other about his dad following him around. That's gonna kill his career.
No, I don't think so. But that's a different debate. You've watched Lonzo play Summer League. You still have Brandon Knight.
He may be the best passer in the NBA right now.
You still have Brandon Knight, and you have all this buzz about other players like Paul George, like maybe even Russell Westbrook, like LeBron James, who might want to play for your team. If you're a Lakers fan, and it seems like by all accounts, there's more of a Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka as opposed to just Magic Johnson calling all the shots. Which, if you give any one person the whole power, that's always dangerous. Yeah. And I don't know, any bit of life. So, I think that if I'm a Lakers fan, I'm really happy about what's happening. I'm not if I put myself in the shoes of a Lakers fan, I haven't seen Lonzo Ball's dad in the context of being a distraction as I thought I would in Summer League. Like if I'm a Lakers fan, I'm like, well, crap, his dad might show up in Summer League games and ruin stuff. Nope, nothing. And if I'm a Lakers fan right now, I'm just happy with what I'm seeing.
He's already kind of separated himself just a bit by not wearing the brand shoes by going, and I think that's kind of a way of him. He's gonna do his own thing. But what I will say about Lonzo Ball probably passes better. I mean, this is gonna sound crazy, but he may be easily arguably one of the best passers in the NBA right now. Right now. And he's a rookie.
He could be a taller, stronger Jason Kidd.
Yeah. I can agree with that.
And then it could be. That's not outrageous for you to say.
With a better passing ability too. And Jason Kidd was pretty good.
Right. So I don't think that's crazy at all. So with that said,
was your half?
So yeah, to recap, the three winners in terms of fan bases, Golden State Warriors. Even though
how the fan bases feel. Yeah.
Golden State Warriors, Dallas Mavericks, Los Angeles Lakers. So the half team is, I just really like their players. I don't know if it can work. It probably can't. It's like how you feel about the Timberwolves. Is how I feel about this team. A lot because they have one star. They have one guy who can turn into a big star, and they just need one of the sneakiest good off-season acquisitions. I'm talking about Nikola Jokic and Paul Millsap, the Denver Nuggets.
Hold on. Wait, hold on.
Look, this is a blind spot for me. I know how you feel about the Timberwolves. The Denver Nuggets is somewhat of a blind spot for me in terms of just, number one, they're the first team that got me into NBA basketball in like 2007 when I was in college.
What I'm saying for our one Minnesota Timberwolves fan that may see this one day is you're saying the Timberwolves weren't winners this offseason.
Look, I've already put a disclaimer. This might be my blind spot. Okay?
Go ahead.
I
looked it up too. After you sent it to me the other day, I looked it up too, and I do like their moves too.
I am absolutely willing to be wrong. Unlike you, I am willing to admit my wrong. Okay? If I'm wrong on this, so be it. But I just think Nikola Jokic can be close to what Giannis is in terms of passing ability, just freak of nature who can do everything. Three-point shooter. He's not very disciplined on the defensive end. He does foul early. I know this from daily fantasy basketball. I may or may not have played daily fantasy basketball last year, but
fantasy guru when it comes to daily fantasy.
But I just like Jokic a lot. Paul Millsap's always been a steady veteran, a good veteran presence, and Jamal Murray, just like Jokic might be a little bit, his ceiling might be a little bit less than Giannis's. Jamal Murray's ceiling might be a little bit less than what Devin Booker's is. I think he's that good of a player.
I can see that.
Now, in terms of wings, I mean, we have Wilson Chandler and.
It's not
the best. It's not the best. You know,
they're building. They're building, and I see it too. And it's kind of like what Sacramento's doing by getting Zach Randolph and George Hill.
Yeah.
Like they are gonna be players in the West to at least try to make the playoffs. By that.
Well, the Kings I don't believe in as much, just because. I mean, they have these veteran parts, and then they have a big fall off in terms of what else they have on the team. Wilson Chandler can play.
Yeah.
Gary Harris is like, what if Danny Green had an overall game? That's what Gary Harris is. So, like, you have some...
Sorry. One of
It's
my
like-
kids' close tags.
So you have... So, in Denver, you have a very interesting team where... And again, this is the list is of fan bases who should be excited the most.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and you could for your purposes put the Timberwolves on there because
Yeah.
I know you like that roster, but the Nuggets Nuggets have this more young people who we haven't really seen their ceiling.
So looks like we're coming to another great episode. Some good stuff in there. Hopefully, next time it'll be the actual NFL preview. That would be great. So until next time, we'll see you guys. Go ahead and check us out on Facebook. Got a website now, and subscribe to us on YouTube right here. Catch you guys next week. Later.